You've been trading long enough to know what a good setup looks like. You've done the work, you've studied the charts, you understand risk management, and you have a strategy, maybe even more than one. So, why does it feel like the more you know, the harder it gets to actually execute? I'm going to tell you something that took me a while to understand. And when I say this, I want you to actually sit with it. Your knowledge is not your problem. Your nervous system is. And if you don't understand that distinction, you will spend the next 5 years doing exactly what you've been doing, adding more tools, more indicators, more rules, and wondering why nothing is sticking. Stay with me, because what I'm about to walk you through changes how you see your own trading completely. Here's what I see constantly with traders who are past the beginner stage. They've graduated from "I don't have a strategy" to something more frustrating. They have a strategy and they still blow up. They revenge trade, they move stops, they size up after a loss. They sit out a perfect setup because they're still stinging from yesterday. And the explanation they give themselves, the story that they tell, is always some version of "I knew better, I just didn't do it." And that phrase, "I knew better, I just didn't do it," is the most common thing I hear from experienced traders. And I want to break down exactly why that happens, because it is not a willpower issue. It is not a knowledge issue. It is a nervous system regulation issue. So let me explain what I mean. Your body has what I call an activation level, your AL. Think of it as a dial that goes from 0, completely flat and disengaged, up to 10, which is full fight or flight, completely dysregulated. At a low AL, somewhere around 2 to 4, you're calm, you're clear, you can assess a chart objectively. You're in what I call your execution window. But the moment you take a loss, the moment the market does something unexpected, the moment you've been sitting in a position for 2 hours and it's barely moved, your AL starts to climb. And here's where it gets interesting. The knowledge that you have as an experienced trader, it doesn't protect you from that climb. In some ways, it makes it worse. Why? Because you now know exactly how much that missed setup cost you. You know precisely how badly you violated your rules, and you can calculate the drawdown in real time. Your knowledge gives your nervous system more ammunition to fire against you. A beginner doesn't know what they lost, but you do. So your AL spikes faster, harder, and your execution deteriorates. Not because you forgot your rules, but because at an AL of 8 or 9, the part of your brain responsible for disciplined decision making is essentially offline. And this is not a metaphor, this is neuroscience. When your threat response activates, your prefrontal cortex function, which is your judgment, your impulse control, your ability to follow a plan, gets down regulated in real time. So, "I knew better" is accurate because you did know better. The version of you that was regulated knew better. The version of you at AL9 couldn't access that knowledge if they tried. This is what's called the regulation paradox. The more experience you accumulate, the higher the stakes feel, the more painful the mistakes become, and the harder it is to stay regulated. Unless You're actively training your nervous system, not just your strategy. I want to give you a few markers so that you can self-diagnose right now. First, do your worst trades happen in clusters? Not randomly, but in clusters. One bad trade leads to another, leads to another. That's activation cascade. Every loss is raising your AL, and you're executing from an increasingly dysregulated state. Second, are your rules only easy to follow on good days? When the market is moving cleanly, when you're up on the week, when there's no pressure, suddenly you're disciplined? Then one bad session and the wheels come off. That's regulation dependent execution. Your rules only work when you don't need them. Third, do you perform better in paper trading than live? Almost universally, because there's no real consequence in paper trading. Your nervous system stays calm, your activation level stays in range, and you execute beautifully. The second real money is on the line, dysregulation creeps in. If any of those land for you, that's not a character flaw. That's a training gap, and it's completely addressable. So what do you actually do about this? The first shift is the most important one. Stop treating regulation as a byproduct of performance and start treating it as a prerequisite. Most traders think if I perform well, I'll feel good. I'll stay calm. And if I follow my rules today, I'll stay disciplined. But that's backwards. You need to regulate first. Execution follows regulation, not the other way around. And what that looks like practically is before you trade, you assess your activation level. Not how you feel in a vague sense, specifically, where is my AL right now? Am I at a 2, a 6? If I'm already at a 6 before the market opens, I'm not in a position to execute at my best. Then you have a protocol, not willpower, a protocol. Something concrete that you do to bring your AL back into range before you put capital at risk. And you track it. You build data on yourself. You stop guessing why you had a bad week and start seeing the pattern. Your execution integrity drops when your AL is elevated. And that's a fact that you can work with. This is the work that experienced traders skip because it doesn't look like trading work. But it is the work. It is the edge that most traders at your level have not developed. If this is landing for you, here's what I want you to do. Start tracking your activation level before and after each session. Just the number, just notice. And you'll start to see the pattern within a week. I've built an entire system around this. The frameworks, the protocols, the tracking. And if you want to go deeper, the link to work with me directly is in the description below. And drop a comment and tell me, do you recognize the regulation paradox in your own trading? I read every comment. And if this gave you something to think about, share it with one trader who needs to hear it. I'll see you in the next one.